The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Right, good morning, folks, and welcome to this first thing in the morning MindView webinar training. I don't know whose idea was it to book a training at 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, thank you so much for joining me and kickstarting our Wednesday in the right way. Why not? Let's do this. So, as you can see on the screen at the moment, guys, I've just got a poll up there just to understand everyone's kind of ability level with MindView. If you could just take a moment just to kind of tick the appropriate box for where you feel like you currently sit with the software, that would be terrific, so I can tailor today's session as closely to the group as much as possible. And as the title suggests, we're looking at using MindView today as an assistive and productivity tool in the workplace. Now, this whole series is really around the uses of MindView assistive technology. So it's focusing on things like workplace adjustments, so access to work, or kind of more strategic interventions in businesses where they've taken on MindView as their chosen assistive technology for mind mapping purposes. So those are the kind of themes that we're going to be looking at today. Not so much the project management elements of MindView that will be covered in the third installation of this webinar series for task and project management. So, right, we've got 83% of you saying you know the basics, which is great, and 17% of you are experts. Right, okay. So I'm going to think on my feet here, because that does change things slightly, because I'm looking down the list as well as what's motivating you to be here. Let me just close this poll and bring up another one, just to kind of understand, why are you here? Because I feel like the majority of you are either going to be trainers, assessors, or you already work with businesses to support them with their assistive technology. Yeah, mentoring individuals. Okay, awesome. All right, well, yeah, thinking on my feet today, then I'm going to open this up to you guys a little bit more than I normally would, simply because I feel like if I just going to go over the basics of how to build the mind map and how to do a word export, potentially that's going to be a bit easy for you lot today. I feel as if we need to be looking at some more kind of specific examples or specific functionality. So in the questions panel of GoToWebinar, if you've come onto this training session today hoping to really address a really specific area or a question that you get regularly that perhaps you don't get to answer in the greatest of detail because you're not so confident on that bit of functionality, then please put that into the questions panel of GoToWebinar so I can put some great emphasis on that. In addition, then, I can just give you guys a lot of insights and perhaps some unique areas of the software that perhaps you weren't totally aware of as we go through today's training session, but I'll kind of base it still around the same workflow of the training that I tend to focus on. So, okay, excellent. Still a couple of people coming in now. Awesome. Okay. So you've all voted, so let me close that and show it off. So 25% of you, a quarter of you, are saying that you provide assessments. Half of you are training users to use assistive technology. 13% of you mentor individuals with assistive technology, and 13% of you are responsible for it within your organization. Jason, yeah, you've been using MindView and teaching for years, so looking for just the additional information. Excellent. Okay, fine. Actually, yeah, I've actually got something I really do need to cover today, and it's all about access to workplace adjustments. So let me just close this now and show my screen. So, okay, so over the years, as you all well know, MindView actually started life as a tool used by businesses first. It was a tool focused on project managers who were having to produce lots of different types of documents, stakeholder engagement, and visualize planning with things like sticky notes or whiteboards. And MindView was really born to solve the problem of helping project managers go from creating the initial brainstorm with a group of stakeholders to then producing all of the project assets, such as the project schedule in a Gantt chart, task descriptive documents in Word, or presentations in PowerPoint. And then it wasn't until about 10 years ago now, 10, 11 years ago, we were introduced by our colleagues at TextHelp to the DSA, and understanding how mind mapping is obviously used as a strategy to support individuals with neurodiversity, to support mental health conditions, and to help just overcome any barriers presented by disabilities and mental health conditions. And so in that journey, we obviously learned a lot about accessibility. And that's something we take seriously every time we bring out a new version of MindView. We've decided to partner with the Digital Accessibility Center as our kind of go-to hub of knowledge when it comes to making our content accessible. In fact, we've just received our latest report back from them, and we've executed all of the recommendations that they have given us as a result of testing it with a broad range of disabilities, so individuals with disabilities, and also the new 2.2 web accessibility guidelines. So we're now going to be compliant with 2.0, 2.1, 2.2, and the accreditation that we receive from the Digital Accessibility Center is also leveled as well, so level 1, 2, and 3. And I believe we're getting level 3, which is the top accreditation for producing a piece of software that's truly accessible. And I think that's really important to point out to you guys today, because when we're working with organizations, be it small and medium enterprises, local authorities, through to FTSE 100 organizations, I think it's really important that they understand that they're getting a package of software which is compliant as being truly accessible. So no matter where they deploy it within their industry, within their organization, they know that regardless of disability or severity of disability, users are going to be able to access the software. And I think this is why MindView is such a good proposition for businesses assessing a mind mapping software for assisted purposes, because it combines the best of both worlds. It combines all of the productivity benefits that we've developed over the years as a project management tool, right through to being then a truly assistive and accessible tool. If you guys aren't familiar with the Digital Accessibility Center or want to share with your businesses more about what that means, you can come to the website, learn about the accreditation they deliver, how they go through about it. This is our official accreditation page just here. And just to give you an idea, they work with a full range of organizations to help improve digital accessibility. And that's everything from, looking at websites, looking at software packages, or helping to define policy in a business that looks at improving, accessibility, more accessible documents, alt tagging, how to approach accessibility as a culture. So loads of information on their website I'd recommend coming to check out. I mentioned this yesterday. I'm saying that because I can see quite a few of you were on the webinar with me yesterday. But what this also means to those of you who are recommending and training assistive technology is that MindView works out of the box with every other technical adjustment that might be recommended. So all screen readers, all text-to-speech software, all speech-to-text software, and even specialist softwares, JAWS, Supernova, Zoom Text, Global Autocorrect. Basically, whatever you're going to recommend, MindView is going to work with it. And again, I think that's a really important thing for IT to understand, is that in that kind of coherent IT strategy that they want to have, that it works with all of their other packages. And not only that, with all the Office packages as well, which I think is really, really important. So we have just released MindView 8. And not only is it a new application, but it is also a new platform I think I should talk about today. What do I mean by that? Well, we've actually moved away from this traditional traditional license key methodology of accessing software and replaced it with an account. So a username and password, so that an individual is no longer restricted by the device that the software is installed and activated on to access our software, but they can actually, just as long as the software is installed, log into it. And what we're seeing now in businesses is they will test and evaluate the MindView 8 application, either for PC or Mac, and they will then make it available on their software app stores or their Apps Anywhere stores, software centers, whatever they want to call it. They're basically their software catalog, so that an individual, no matter which device that they're on, as long as it's networked, they can download it, install it, and then they can just log into it. Now, the advantage of that for an IT department is that they don't have to worry about deploying the software to a specific device with a license key activated. All they have to do is just make the software available, and then the user can just log into it. I think that's a really defining feature of this new functionality, is that it's going to make it easier for IT departments to actually deploy access to the software. Now, I want to point you guys into the direction of some useful documentation. Because, of course, now that we're moving away from, well, we have moved away from MindView 7 to MindView 8, IT departments do need to evaluate the software. I don't normally talk about this in the training session, but you guys looking at the list today, you're going to find this very useful. So under Resources and Documents, you'll find both the Windows and Mac technical specifications. Now, that's kind of the go-to documents that we send to IT departments when they're evaluating the software. It also shows them how to roll it out over a network or package it as part of their software store. Okay, so just two very good documents there. In addition to that, MindView does have some cloud services, which previously, when you were just sending out the MindView desktop applications, wasn't something they had to consider. it is now they have to evaluate, obviously, the cloud services that we provide. Now, the MindView Drive technical documents really covers this in great detail. In short, we actually use Microsoft Azure as our cloud service hosting services. So obviously a lot of the protocols, data security, privacy policies that they uphold to, we get to benefit from that, but also from a technical perspective on things like uptime, disaster recovery, all those things that cloud services want to go into to investigate, we've covered in great detail. So it talks about all of this within the MindView Drive technical specifications, and also where that data is stored. And organizations, as I'll get into a moment, can actually choose exactly where they want data to be stored for their organization, which is obviously critical when it comes to data storage for organizations. Just going to scroll down to the bottom of this document here, because I do also want to point out we've got our privacy policy, data security policy, and the terms of service down here as well. So of course, guys, you can always come out, ask me if an organization have sent you a technical questionnaire. Feel free to send it over to me. I'm completing them for all of the kind of FTSE 100, police forces, NHS, local authorities. I'm kind of becoming a bit of a dab hand of finishing those. So if you do need us to complete those, please do send them over to us. Okay. So that's under resources, documents, and you'll find loads of specific information. I'd also want to just point out the case studies that we have within here, because I think these go to highlight where MindView is used within a business. So under products, into MindView, on the left-hand side, if you head to testimonials, you've got fantastic examples from industry of how they're using MindView, as a productivity tool, project management tool, as a kind of visual graphical organization tool. And I do just want to point in the direction of a couple of these I think you'll find particularly useful. The first one is here, obviously at Lloyds Bank. They feature MindView as a tool for assistive purposes, and this individual received MindView as a result of their workplace adjustment. And I think it really goes to highlight how MindView has got a very broad utility for helping individuals capture ideas, transfer them into other formats to help with their daily activities. And this user in particular was talking about the struggles they were facing, about that mental strain of feeling like you're going to lose your job because you weren't able to communicate effectively, or you couldn't get your ideas out and articulate them in a clear fashion within the context they were working in. And so this user goes to talk about how MindView really helped to unlock his ability to communicate, organize ideas, and obviously disseminate that amongst the team and work in a more efficient manner. I think that's one of the great benefits as well that we'll look at today is, instead of just walking in and saying to an individual, right, I'm going to show you an assistive technology tool today, I'm going to show you a tool that's going to give your personal productivity a big boost. Okay. So that's a really good one. Again, under the testimonials, I'd look at, we've got some, and these are from all over, not just UK, but the continent of Europe, the US, which is the one? Oh yeah, how to manage real estate management with MindView, how a city council uses that to manage all of their social housing. And we've also got then some specific white papers looking at dyslexia in the workplace, which I think is really useful to download and share with institutions about how mind mapping is used to support individuals with dyslexia. Okay, good. So before we jump into the software itself then, let's address this idea of the account. So the account is now hosted at accounts.matchware.com. Let me just log out here, and you'll be presented with this page to log into it. Now, MindView is being deployed through Access to Work and Workplace Adjustments in two different ways. The first way is we are deploying it direct to the end user. So that user receives an email or a link to create their own individual account. And so by doing so, they kind of have MindView, I suppose, in isolation. The second method that businesses are opting to do is nominate an administrator, an IT or a procurement contact to manage all of the MindView users for their organization. Okay, and so there's kind of pros and cons to both ways of doing this, I suppose, but let me just log into my test account here, which will help to demonstrate what it looks like for an organization who's nominated an administrator to manage their users within the organization. Because, of course, one of the things that license keys made it very difficult to do was to have a good understanding of A, how many licenses have they got in the business, and B, who's got access, and C, are they even using it if they do have access? And I suppose there's a fourth element to that as well, is if they leave the business, what happens to that license? Does it just kind of disappear into the ether and no one's been managing it, and so no one knows where it's really gone? So within this account, we've got lots of different things to point in the direction of. The first is the applications page. So the application page contains all of the installation files for downloading and installing MindView for Windows, Mac, and there's a link at the bottom to access MindView online. So this is a key change for workplace users, is that no longer are you just recommending the PC version or the Mac version. You're recommending the MindView Assistive Technology Suite. So the users can now access it across all platforms and be able to access it on an unlimited number of devices through that login methodology. So that's where the IT departments will come and gather the executable files for their software anywhere or their apps anywhere platforms. Now, down the left-hand side, we've got some further information. So we've got a licenses overview, so the business can see exactly how many users they've got within the business, and then they can add more licenses to that. They've got their invoice and billing history. But going down through to the admin, this is where things get really interesting. We now have a portal that enables businesses to manage their licenses and their access to the software as users. And there's a number of different ways that a business can go about managing their users. The kind of simplest out-of-the-box method is just by adding a user, right? So they put in the name, the email of the person, assign their user role, and whether or not they receive a license or not. Now, when you create that user, it will automatically send that person an email. Your account has been created. Click here to confirm or to activate your account, and then they'll make their own username and password. And then that'll be the username and password they use to access the software, okay? Now, a kind of a method that our IT guys are loving a lot is the ability to generate a referral code that when they deploy that to the end user, all they do is they click on that code, create their account, and then it will automatically add that user into that organization's account. And you can refresh that link as many times as you want, so links aren't getting abused. If you refresh that every week or so, every month, or whatever you need to do to ensure that that link isn't being abused. But there's also some other methods here. So we've got the referral, the invite. We can import through a CSV or an Excel if you've got a large number of users you want to import. But businesses can also synchronize MindView with their Active Directory. So again, if they wanted to manage their users through a security group or a specific tenant ID, they can create that single sign-on with their business. And what we can also do with the software is restrict access to MindView only through the Active Directory if we wanted to. So it just means that for the user, they're not having to manage lots of different usernames and passwords. And for the business, they don't have to manage multiple databases because they often just use their Active Directory when managing user groups for specific software packages. Okay, but you can also see within here then the last login date. So are the users using the software? This could be an opportunity, a positive opportunity to reach out to them and say, right, can see you haven't accessed the software in a while. Would you like to book in some training? Maybe we can look at if you're still using it. If not, maybe we can switch them off and deploy it to a different user in the business. Okay. So adding someone onto the AD group will give them access to MindView online. So when the organization has synchronized that that specific tenant ID, whichever user they put into that will automatically synchronize with MindView. Now, so yes, they would have access to MindView online and they'd have access to the applications, but of course they need to have enough users to facilitate that access, as in enough licenses, I should say, to facilitate that access. Okay, so that's how. Sorry, let me come back to that. No worries. So we, of course, have received loads of different questions and requests about our cloud services, managing users, and of course, this is always getting updated. But we've got some more functionality for administrators, which I think is really critical. The first is if they have evaluated our cloud services and they're happy to use that. To give you an example, no, I'm not at liberty to say those organizations' names, but we are being assessed frequently by FTSE 100 companies, and we are being identified as low risk, and we're being signed off to be used. So I would go into that process with some confidence that we're going to get signed off. But there are some organizations who do not, at any cost, want data going outside of their firewalls. So what that administrator can do is deactivate for all users use of the MindView Drive, which is where you can save documents in the cloud and collaborate with multiple users, and deactivate access to the MindView Online platform. In some cases, users are deactivating it whilst they evaluate it, because of course they've got a requirement to still deploy the applications, the PC and the Mac applications, but they can go ahead and still do that by deactivating it and then later on reactivate access to the drive and online. You can delete accounts, of course, but this is a new one at the bottom. We can force what login types are allowed. So again, this comes from the 14 principles of cloud management. I can't remember what it's called. It's the principles that local authorities and public sector organizations have to follow, and one of them is being able to force people not to use things like their Facebook or Google accounts to create a single sign-on, or they can force the login or force the standard login as well. So that's now customizable. But at the very top as well, you can choose exactly which storage location you want content to be saved in. So of course, for UK organizations, they might want to put that in UK South. And in the MindView Drive technical specifications, it talks about exactly where that is in the UK. Yeah, so UK South is London. Okay, so loads of functionality there for administrators to be aware of. And I promise we're not trying to make life difficult for you guys. There's lots of benefits of going down this route, but I think it's an additional conversation if you are working with organizations at a strategic level and you're not, instead of just buying licenses now and deploying it into the business, it's worthwhile having this conversation with them about this platform. And if you want to use us, engage with us to help demonstrate that, or to bring in some of our development team to discuss with their IT department about the infrastructures or how that is actually working, then please do use us to help manage that process. Okay. Awesome. Right. So I didn't plan to really go into too much detail there, so sorry if that felt a little bit off the cuff, but I think it's really important for you guys to understand that. So let's go back, look at the new update. So under the MindView Suite page, on the left-hand side, there's a whole page now dedicated to the upgrade features of MindView. Now, regardless of which version you've had previously, MindView 6, MindView 7, I think even MindView 5, we're honoring it, you can upgrade with a 50% discount to the MindView Suite. And we're allowing users to actually lock in that discount for 3 and 5 years. Of course, after those 3 or 5 years, it will revert back to the list price. But again, it's an opportunity to go into the business to say, right, you've got 12 licenses, 10, whatever licenses of MindView, 5 and 6 and 7. Let's upgrade those at a discount, and then it transfers into that account where you can manage all those users on the platform. So I think there's a great added value to be able to do that. And of course, it gives them a bit of a discount to do that. But in the new features, it's all kind of outlined here. We've got a new interface in the Windows and Mac version. I say new, it's just kind of an updated. For Windows, it's the new 2009 Office interface. For Mac, it's the new protocols of the Mac interface. But we do have some new functionality built into those software packages as well. The first, of course, is this idea of the multi-platform. I think I've covered that in pretty good detail today, the MindView suite. We've updated just the general usability elements of MindView, new clip art drawings, the icons have been redrawn, we've got some new template styles, but we've got also the MindView Drive. So the MindView Drive is this ability to save documents in the cloud, so that no matter where you're working, you log into MindView, you can access those documents. But you can now also share and control access to documents with multiple users. So you can deploy then a MindView document to any number of users, give them read-only or read and write access, and you can now see that collaboration happening in real time. So a bit like Office 365 or Google Doc, you've got multiple users collaborating, and you would see those changes happening in real time. Now, you don't just have to collaborate with people in your own business. If you know the email address of another user and you want to collaborate with them, all you have to do is pop in their email address, and the system will automatically pick out if they've got a license, and so you can collaborate with them. I think that's really good for mentors, for study skills coaches, for one-to-one training, is that you don't have to do the whole, okay, I'll share my screen now and you can watch what I'm doing, or I ask you to click things. You can both jump onto the same document together and plan things out together, which I think is really, really useful. And obviously it's a no-brainer for project management teams who are collaborating together. A new submaps feature, which I'll demonstrate today, some new PowerPoint templates, enhanced citation, word export, and a really cool conditional formatting functionality. So this conditional formatting is basically like the conditional formatting of Excel. So you can set up rules on the document, such as, like in this GIF, is showing the example of, okay, once a task is set to 100% complete, I want that branch to automatically turn green. So I'm just setting up this rule here on this particular GIF, and as you can see now the completion is set to 100. It automatically then sets the branch to turn green. And of course, you can then turn your mind map into a more dashboard approach to project management. And that can be as simple or as complicated as you want it, really, with those conditional formatting. A bit like Excel, really. You know, it can be as simple as just making a table, or as complicated as you like it with some very specific elements in there. Now, one thing I think is really important to talk about is our new Dictate engine that we've got built into MindView. This is the same engine that powers Microsoft's Dictate. I would say, though, caveat that, Microsoft obviously keep the brand new shiny version of their Dictate tool, and we kind of, like the younger sibling, get the hand-me-down. So as the gold partners, we get the hand-me-down features, which is still great. It's helping to maintain a typical way of working if you don't have access to other speech-to-text tools, and you can continue with that typical way of working. All right. Cool. Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Didn't know about the conditional formatting. That's cool. You'll know what you'll be doing later on today, checking out the conditional formatting. What a fun day you've got ahead. Excellent. Right, well, let's just jump into the software. And hopefully you guys have already taken the opportunity to download the software. I'm going to give you perhaps a few activities to do today. Nothing too strenuous, because I know you guys are already very familiar with the software. So it's probably going to be a bit more just me showing you some stuff today, really. The first thing I want you to point you all in the direction of is obviously some training content that you can use to deploy to users when you give them training. Firstly is this template. I spoke about it yesterday. It's built into the software, and as always, templates are a great way of helping to showcase how MindView can be used within specific contexts. We've got loads of different business templates, loads of education templates, personal templates to come check out. But the one I just want to point you out first is found under Education, all the way underneath Study Skills. It's called MindView for Assistive Technology, Assessment and Training. All I've done with this mind map is break down the typical functions of the software, from building and formatting a mind map, doing the Word, PowerPoint export, creating visual action plans, and even some project management. And under each paperclip is a link to the video tutorial and the MindView template that I used in that video tutorial. So it might just be a nice thing to leave your users with when you finish that training. Say, look, if you get stuck, here's a bit of a one-stop shop for some video tutorials and some example templates. But in addition to that, under the supporting documents, we've got some justification guides. So this Word document here is basically a breakdown from assessors to us on what they're recommending MindView for. So it's a kind of, again, a bit of a cheat sheet, I suppose, on justifications for MindView. If I scroll down to specific areas, we've got dyslexia, just some keywords, help to kind of capture ideas quickly, organize them, brain dump in a non-linear fashion, and then export into Word, PowerPoint, and different formats. Again, attention deficit, ASDs, even things like light sensitivity, having kind of low contrast mode, high contrast mode, compatible with screen masking softwares, all these different things. And then those white papers down at the bottom here as well. I leave this in Word, so you can take this and continue to add onto it perhaps your justifications or your areas of why you recommend mind mapping as a strategy, and perhaps specifically MindView might be a useful thing. Yeah, Mustafa, I'm currently working on the Mac videos as we speak. So there will be some Mac videos released in the not too distant future. Cool. Okay. So loads of different things to get your teeth into here. The PC shortcuts, Mac shortcuts, MindView guides, loads of things. Okay. So I'm not going to go through them one by one. Let's actually just jump into the software itself. Now, one of the things I do like to point out within every presentation is the difference between the simple interface and the non-simple interface. When using the Assistive Technology Edition of MindView, as a default, the simple interface is toggled on. Now, you can turn this on and off underneath the View tab. So all the way to the right-hand side here, we have the simple interface on and off. Now, within the simple interface, which I have on now, it just makes the home ribbon toolbar a little bit easier to digest and gives you a bit of a workflow to focus on. So from left to right, you've got build your mind map, add your content, and then export out into Office documents. If I turn this off, you see we just get a bit more functionality onto the mind map here. And not only that, we get more functionality within the tabs as well. So I think it's good to know, because once you become a bit more of an experienced user of MindView, I turn off that simple interface because you want to have more functionality. But of course, if you are working with a user who you know that if they see that, they'll be overwhelmed and very confused, turn on that simple interface and use that as a good guide to help them access the software for the very first time. Okay. Now, let's just build out a simple mind map here. Excellent. So under the design tab, we've got lots of new templates. I think some in here are absolutely fantastic for the workplace context. They kind of look a bit cleaner, a bit more up to date, a bit more slick and professional. But for kind of a newer diversity angle, this mind map is proving to be very user friendly as well, because as you can see, as I build out the mind map ideas, the coloring of the branches remains consistent in whole sections of the mind map. So again, if you're using colors as a strategy to help chunk out information, to help recall information or categorize stuff, then that's a really useful mind map template. But of course, we've got a nice kind of high contrast mode mind map, and you've got your old tried and tested mind maps in here. So of course, different mind maps have different qualities, and they're worth exploring with that end user. But not only that, a mind map is essentially a visual structure, right? And we often refer to that as an organic structure or radial structure, but essentially it's a hierarchy of main branches and sub-branches. So sometimes when planning out an idea, it's not always useful to have that, I wouldn't say chaotic structure, or I'd say organic structure. Sometimes you want to have it a little bit more structured. So again, under the design tab, you see we've got different layouts. You got that kind of top-down view, left to right view, left to right view. So it's the same information, we're just displaying it in different ways. And sometimes I think that can be useful to show a user, because ultimately we're looking for that kind of penny drop moment, right? Where the information is displayed in a way that you suddenly go, ah, right, yeah, that makes sense to me. I can now organize those ideas more effectively, and I can start to get the ideas out and communicate that with other people. So again, it's something I like to leave up the sleeve, that if the mind map isn't kind of appealing, just to kind of show those other different layouts is a nice way of helping to do that. Jason, yes, there is a way of doing that. So Jason's asking, is there a way of kind of unlocking the mind map so it doesn't always structure it, but you can kind of put things where you want? You can, but there is a trade-off in doing that. So firstly, I think it's really important to talk about the way that MindView, we have this kind of integrity of the way that we sequence information. So that kind of numbering scheme, which displayed here shows the main branches at 1, sub-branches with sub-numbers, and so on and so forth. And that sequence is obviously really important because it helps us to then transfer between the different views. It helps us to transfer between the different formats of Office documents. But I can turn that off. So let me just go to the Mind Map view. Under View, go to the right-hand side. There's a range of different panels that you can open. So what is a panel? It's these tabs on the right-hand side here, like pictures, icons, calculation, all those things. But it's also things like the quick start videos. When you open the MindView for the very first time and you see on the left-hand side, you've got those quick start videos. Well, that's a panel that you can just turn on and off. But the panel I want to turn your attention to is properties. And there's loads of things you can do in here, which we don't necessarily talk about. So I've just clicked into the background, so nothing on my mind map is selected. And I go to branches, and I can turn off my branch auto layout. So by turning off that auto layout now, I can just drag and drop, move ideas around and structure them a little bit more kind of all over the place and spread things out with a bit more detail. And of course, that does apply to all different views that we put into the software. Okay. Now, like I said, there's a trade-off with that. And notice that once I've kind of displayed everything all over the place, the numbering sequence is not going to adapt as I move things around, because of course I've decided to say, right, I'm controlling that layout. So notice now that as I've moved things around, that integrity of the numbering scheme around that chronological order has disappeared. So when I export this to Word, for example, idea number 1, which is down here, is still going to be my first section of the Word document, then idea number 2, and so on and so forth. It's just one of the limitations of the software, really. When you start bringing in that customization, it's the trade-off. But of course, if you're just building a mind map for a visual, then yeah, maybe that's going to be a useful bit of functionality. Cool. No worries. Jason, love it. You're testing me today. We're getting some very specific questions out there, which I love. It's great. Branches, and just going to turn that auto layout back on. Okay. So by contrast, guys, if you weren't familiar before, drag and dropping ideas around with the auto layout automatically changes that numbering scheme, which of course then relates to all those other things I was just talking about. Cool. Okay. Well, look, I'm just going to, I suppose, cheat here a little bit, and I'm going to fast forward to a template. Now, this template I've actually got saved not within my template section, but actually in my MindView drive. So when I've got MindView and I've got access to the drive, I go to Manage Files, and I can see all of the documents that I've saved in the MindView drive are here. I can see the fact that I've shared them with some people, and underneath Shared with Me, the documents that will be shared with me by other people. But I'm just going to go to this agenda template. So when demonstrating MindView for a workplace context, it's always a bit of a head scratcher sometimes to think about what to think about. I always use the making an agenda, because of course everyone runs lots of meetings, and using mind mapping to not only prepare for the meeting but actually run the meeting is a really good example of doing that. So in this example, I've just created some main agenda items. So at the very top here, I've got my opening remarks. Let me just make this a unique color. With some sub-agenda items, updates, first issue, second issue, and closing remarks at the bottom here. Let me just quickly come back to you guys. let me ask you a question here. Are you happy with the format of me just kind of going through and showing you stuff, or would some of you really like to be like building some items in MindView within the software yourself? Could you just, I'm not going to tell you people what you answer, but in the questions panel of MindView, if you've got a real specific requirement to actually want to use the software today, could you just let me know so I can make those opportunities available? Otherwise, I'll make it a bit more of just like a presentation today. Gosh, how unprofessional of me today. What a really off-the-cuff thing I'm doing. Yeah, a couple of you just happy with watching. It makes the start of the day a lot easier for you, I suppose. Don't mind. Okay, Jason's just using MindView Online, playing with it as you go. Don't mind. Okay, fine. Excellent. Well, don't hold it against me today. Thanks, Louise. Excellent. Awesome. Okay, so in this example then, I've taken it even one step further, and I've actually started to add some colors, add some things on here. So for those of you, you know MindView already, but there are some useful design things I just want to talk about. Now, the first thing to be aware of is there are differences between the design and the format. Notice how the Format tab doesn't appear until you actually select a branch. So one of the common mistakes I get from new users is that they will not have anything selected on the mind map. They'll come up to the design, they'll be like, oh yeah, I want to change the color of that to green. Oh, and now everything's changed, not just the one thing I wanted to change. So just make sure you're pointing out that you need to select either individual sections or multiple items, okay? Now, one thing that's really useful, I find as well, is to create boundaries around sections of the mind map. So to create a boundary, you first of all select the parent branch first, head it to Format, and then you get the option here of creating boundaries around sections of the mind map. Now, this can be particularly useful when you've got very large sections of the mind map, because, of course, when we work with really large mind maps, breaking it down to smaller parts is really, really useful. And then you can, of course, bring in different shaded backgrounds and edit the different styles, backgrounds, all those good things. Why am I showing you that? Well, I don't normally get to show it on when we're doing demonstrating stuff, but I know it's really, really popular with specific users to create those different visual sections of a mind map, okay? Now, taking that theme a little bit further, we've got a new feature which we've labeled submaps, okay? So this actually came mainly as a request from project managers who, instead of managing just one specific project, they want to manage multiple projects on one mind map, often referred to as portfolio or program management, okay? Now, the reason why they want to manage it on one mind map is because when they're working on allocation of resources, budgeting, or working out duration or workload, if you have that spread across multiple mind maps, you actually have to run those calculations yourself. Whereas if you have it in one giant mind map, it will automatically roll up the values to tell you about resource allocation and time management and all these good things. But of course, when the mind map gets really, really big, it's difficult to break that down. So the submaps feature enables you to take a section of your mind map, head up to View. Actually, I think it's on the Home tab when you've got no simple interface turned on. Go to Submaps, and then just create that parent branch as a submap. And when you do that, it essentially applies the, let me just delete opening remarks, submap, and create it here. It essentially creates that branch focus mode where, you know, it just removes everything in the mind map and just focuses you on that one particular section. But in addition to that, across the bottom of the page, it adds it as a tab. And that tab then allows you to just circulate between different sections of your mind map. Now, before I talk about how that benefits the project manager, you can see how when we're working within the context of neurodiversity, when we've got really big mind maps, we can get distracted, we can get overwhelmed. And so creating these different sections of the submap just help you to focus in on one section at a time. And not only that, when I'm delivering a presentation, it enables me to kind of see the big picture of the presentation. Then maybe, okay, we're just going to go into the opening remarks. Maybe with the opening remarks, I had it collapsed, and then I can just open and close things as I'm presenting it, and then walk through this as a presentation tool. Now, why this is really good as for project management, like I said, is because MindView, of course, when we're working in the project management mode, will roll up the values of the outer branches to help define parent branches, and so on and so forth, right up to the overall project itself. So when we've got that in one big MindView document with those submaps across the bottom, we can then treat each section as an individual project. So that's one thing to visualize it on the mind map, but let's head this over to the Gantt chart. So View, Gantt, and as you can see here within this project, it's really quite a large project. And if you imagine that even further, a program would have hundreds and hundreds of lines of tasks, maybe even thousands, and so on and so forth. So being able to then chunk this out into individual project Gantt charts, it's like having all those multiple projects in one place, as well as your overall program, okay? Oh, Mustafa, option enter, supposed to add a new sub-branch and selected branch. However, this doesn't work. I'll have to come back to that, Mustafa. I might have to just find out what's going on with that, okay? So that submaps functionality obviously is great for that mind map. It's really great for the Gantt chart, but it applies everywhere. You know, if I go to the timeline view now as well, I could have a really big, massive, complicated timeline. But of course, if I chunk it out to those individual sections, I get more focused sections of my mind map with specific action plans or visual chronological ordered timelines, okay? So that's a new feature that's also going to continue to develop because, of course, there's loads of things that we can do around program and portfolio management. But it's kind of like our way of getting started with that process, okay? Excellent. Okay, so worthwhile pointing out then the new dictation functionality of MindView. It does what it says on the tin. It works both on the branches and into the text note editor. Project update. Okay, and then into the text note editor as well. I will review with the team the latest updates with all projects. Full stop. New line. New line. I think everything's going brilliantly. Okay. Now, I would say that it's by no way near the quality of Dragon. And like I said, the Microsoft Dictation tool is even getting better. So there's some functionality that you'd expect to see in Word that perhaps you don't see in MindView, such as actually seeing the preview of the text as you're speaking it. Basically, it takes all that you're saying, waits for a pause, and then we'll chuck it into the text note or into the mind map. Ah, Jason, you know how to say all the right things. Just going back to the Gantt chart, yeah, it's something that perhaps I overlook because I've got so used to it. Just the simplicity of being able to drag and drop these duration bars and move them around. Even standardized tools like Microsoft Project don't have that ease of use when it comes to dragging and dropping and moving items around. And yes, as you rightly said, in comparison to other mind mapping softwares which have Gantt charts, that functionality is lacking there as well. Smiley face, indeed. Okay, so actually, because we are talking about workplace today, of course, report writing, presentation planning, those are all the kind of the bulwark of where MindView gets recommended for workplace adjustments. But when I'm working with organizations who have kind of said, right, yeah, MindView is ticked off as a tool for our adjustments package, you've kind of done half of the hard work when it comes to getting software into a new organization. IT have signed it off. So that really does open you up to the opportunity of kind of doing a bit of demand generation, kind of going to that project management office and saying, right, what tools are you using for project management? And I can guarantee 80% of the time, even in massive organizations, they're using Excel still, and it's really painful. So take the opportunity to run a demonstration to them, talk to the project management team. They will bite your hands off for this. There's loads and loads of specific functionality just for project managers in here. Okay, so let's actually follow that last theme of project management a little bit further, because I know we're stretching your knowledge today. So at the top right-hand side here, we've got two things I'm going to talk about: project baselines and project reports. So let's just set some completions here as well. So just drag and drop by completion. Or I can use the toolbar at the top. Let's set it to 50%. Set some completed tasks down here as well. Okay, so a project baseline is what a project manager will use at various different stages of the project to help to identify where was the plan originally set and where are we now? What has slipped? What has changed? What are the consequences of those changes? Have we lost money? Have we saved money? Have we made up time? Have we lost time, etc.? So a project baseline in MindView allows you to, at any point, take a snapshot of the project and its current values. Okay, so I'm just going to hit create, and there's that baseline creation date up here. And let's say this is the original project baseline client approved. Okay, and hit OK. Now, of course, as the project continues, as the days go by, we might have some slippage on this particular item, which, because I've created those predecessors, as we know, will affect the rest of the project. But I've got some completion, and let's also move a couple of these down here as well. Now, there's a few ways that you can visualize or review the project data, including the baseline data. The first is to visualize it within the Gantt tools. So the Gantt design, I can show the baseline, any number of baselines on the Gantt chart itself. Now this will show it as a visual representation. So you can see I've got the gray bars where they used to be, and now the slippage down the line. So immediately in a visual snapshot, I'm able to see that differentiation. As well as that, within the outline of MindView, so all of these columns here, a bit like an Excel spreadsheet, which makes up the Gantt chart, we can add more columns into this outline. So by right click here, I've now got all of my baseline information in here. So let's say baseline duration. So I can drag and drop, move that next to my actual duration and see my baseline versus my actual, so the overall project. And you can do that on things like costs and all those good things as well. I haven't really got much project data in here like resources or costs or things like that, so I'm not really being able to review much information. But in addition to all of that, the mind map still becomes a relevant place to be able to display project information. We just don't display it as a default because it can get quite complicated. But if I go to the design, sorry, not design, if I just highlight a section here to make it a bit easier to see, actually, go to opening remarks, head to format, start and end date, completion, resources. Okay, you can then see all that information displayed directly on that specific, I've just got opening remarks, but on that specific section, okay? Actually, if I go to design, I thought I could also show, maybe because I'm on a submap. Oh, I'm learning here today. Oh, it's under the view tab, that's why. Come on, Liam. Branch data, duration, completion, all those good things. And I can show that directly onto every single section of the mind map. Now, of course, when it comes to then sending information out to users, there's loads of different ways that we can do that with MindView, of course. There's the traditional send it to Word, send it to PowerPoint, use the Excel export if you want to see a more kind of like budgeted style document. But the project reports, I think, are fantastic when helping to display project information in a bit more of a compelling way. So if we head to export, we're going to head to project reports. Now these export in a HTML format, so you can share these with anyone. It will just open it in a browser, okay? So, and it helps just to show project information in a bit more of a compelling way. So down the left-hand side are all the different reports that are built into here, and in the export, you can actually customize which elements you want to export. You don't have to export everything like this. But we've got the executive summary at the start, which kind of helps us just to see the overall things like task status, the summary of tasks, the costs, the overall tasks, etc. But you can then just go specifically into things like task status. So unstarted, in progress, completed, and then just go through each different section. And you can see how going back to that theme of managing a program, each one of these would be an individual project as opposed to just a task. And so it really does give you very large kind of dashboard style information about project management, which a project manager will just bite your hand off for, because the time it's taken to produce this compared to manually creating it is just killer. But if I go to my baselines as well, I can see deviation very easily. So based on duration, cost, workload, because I wasn't really managing those things, I didn't really see it. But you can see very quickly a deviation of loss of days, clawed back days, etc., etc. Oh, guys, that's actually really, really specific. So feel free for that to kind of go in one ear and out the other if you don't think that's relevant for you. But I think it's really important just to kind of show some more of the complexity elements of MindView, perhaps we don't get to cover in great detail. So Ryan, how would you share this with your manager? That's a really great question. So let me think about, okay, have I got lots of text on here already? Yeah, I do. Excellent. So let's imagine then that this is a report of my project, and I've been using it to both manage my project with the Gantt chart or the timeline, but I've also then been using the mind map as a way of helping to capture documents, text, perhaps updates for information that I've been gathering, and making my mind map my kind of one-stop shop for everything relating to this project, okay? So I think the go-to to share it with your manager for me is always going to be the word export. But there's a few little tricks in here that I think you might find useful. So the word export, as always, use that custom word export as a way of making your document look amazing. And there's loads of different styles to choose from. Let's choose calm for now. Incidentally, as well, in your business, if they have defined a Word template document, you can actually use that Word document to export into. So it has like the company logo, the right colors for the text and all that good stuff. Let's just keep that on calm for now. Now under the general tab, I don't want to have a title page. I don't really need a table of contents, but I'll leave it in there for now. I don't want a bibliography. But what I do want to bring across is the dates and the completion of each of the task items from my mind map. So I've just toggled these on just here. Let's export this across and save it. Excellent. And export this into Word. Now, for new users of the software, this is one of the things you have to demonstrate, because of course it's the wide eye moment where most people are used to mind mapping. They're used to it on a piece of paper, and then once they've done it on a piece of paper, they go to their computer and write it all up again from scratch. This is where we really kind of consider MindView as that productivity tool, because you're not having to replicate the same information from scratch, and it's presenting it in a really, really visually appealing way. Now, even if I was using this as an agenda, you can see I've created now an amazing agenda document. The main branches have converted into the main chapter titles, sub-branches and sub-chapters. And the sequence of the numbering scheme has been used to create the linear outline. I brought across the table of contents just to show you how it makes it. It is a proper table of contents in Word as well. So as you update this document, you can update your table of contents and the page numbers and even any new headers that you added into the document. I also talk about with users the benefit of keeping the image of the mind map in the document. One of the things I think we find very difficult to achieve when you've spent a lot of time writing a document is getting people to read it. I think it's a harsh reality. So what's engaging about leaving the mind map at the top of the document is that it gives everyone a very quick overview of what's actually in there. And you even learn something about the document just by looking at the mind map. Not only that, if you are continuing to work on this document as an individual who perhaps finds it difficult to disseminate large amounts of text in a linear format, the mind map is that good, quick reminder of, oh yeah, this is what that document's about. This is where I find that information, and it makes it a bit more accessible. But if I scroll down through the document, basically whatever you've embedded onto the branches forms the body of the text, right? So there's those text notes, I left the images in, why not? But notice as well, underneath the headers, I've also got a table made up of the data of the project, which you can either leave that in, or it's a nice visual prompt for you to then continue writing your report in here based on the fact that, okay, that's the start date, that's the end of date, completion. I could even have the resources on there as well. And I think it's just a really, really useful way of helping to transpose that information. Now, one thing that's also quite good about when you add a Microsoft document onto the mind map is that when you export it to Word, it truly embeds that document within the Word document as well. So instead of having to manage loads of appendices, loads of email documents here, there, and everywhere, embedded into the Word document itself are all of those project assets. And if I just double click on it, it opens like an attachment in the native format of that file. Excellent. Scroll down a little bit further. What else have I got? Okay, the icons are on there as well. So yeah, I think when you're disseminating that to your manager, this is a really comprehensive way of producing those documents. I actually get it a lot. I get a lot of times when I have the opportunity of speaking with end users who have called in for some technical support. One of the things that's quite frequent is they go, my manager's asked me to document this IT process, and I don't even know what format they want it in, or I don't really understand what they want. We built the mind map together, and when we exported it to Word, it presents that information in a way that you just feel super confident that you can present that to a manager, and it gets documented, it puts on SharePoint, and then you've actually produced some really good documentation. Nice. But also the PowerPoint export. I will show this to you because we've got some new slides in here. Why not? So File, Export, PowerPoint. Again, choose the custom. You can choose your organization's template. And we've got some really nice templates built into this. Oh, this is cool. So firstly, let me show you what it looks like when we export into one of ours. So export to Earth. Great. Just as you'd expect it, the template makes it look good. It presents information in different ways. The first slide is always an introduction to the main headers of your mind map. And if I go around the document, there's the opening remarks and so on and so forth. And now the text as well in MindView, in the PowerPoint, is dynamic as well. So I can just make that bigger or smaller, and it makes the text box dynamic. In previous versions of MindView, we had to kind of make the active decision. Do we make the text big? Do we make it small? And you'll always upset someone. And now it kind of helps everyone, okay? So that's great. It makes it look really clean and formatted. However, MindView, PowerPoint now has loads of really cool design ideas built into it. Now, if you export with MindView's PowerPoint slides in a formatted way, it doesn't work very well with that functionality. So what I recommend is you do the custom PowerPoint export, again still, and choose blank, right? So there's no formatting from MindView put onto this PowerPoint slide. And the other thing I'm also going to do is under the General tab, I'm going to include the map image, and I'm going to not make slides for any empty branches. Okay, so there's no point having a slide with nothing on it. Export this out again. Now, the reason why I've done it in blank is because PowerPoint has pretty much killed off the need for graphic designers when it comes to making presentations now. It's called Design Ideas at the top right-hand corner. So in the first instance with MindView, it's just a very blank export, which is quite nice still. The format looks pretty nice, as in the text and the images come across really nice. But let's now click on Design Ideas, and you can now supercharge even further those styles. Ah, that's so cool. So there's my agenda outline. Okay, great. Let's go into opening remarks. What design ideas have you got for me here? Nice. Ah, no brainer. You can see I'm getting excited by just the simplest of things. But one thing, it's great to bring it over with the templates of MindView. But now that you have these design ideas of PowerPoint, the mind map is still helping you to structure your presentation, or it's helping you to take your existing project and bring it over into PowerPoint, and then you've got a really kind of coherent way of working with these design ideas as well to elevate your presentation even further. Okay. what do we do with the text ideas here? Oh my gosh. This just makes your work look so good. It's never been so easy, guys. Awesome. Right. I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. Let me just make sure I've covered off all the new functionality bits. Right, so the last thing I'm just going to leave you with, and we're going to finish this session early unless you've got something specific you want to focus on, is sharing this document and collaborating with multiple users, okay? I am so excitable. Sorry. So this document, as you see, is already saved online, and there's the icon for the MindView drive. To do that, all I did was hit to File, Save As, and save it into the MindView drive. Of course, you can still save MindView documents in other locations, such as your SharePoint drive, Google Drive, OneDrive, or you can just save it locally onto your computer. But once saved online, it gives you these additional collaborative elements. So I head to Share, and just here we have a share item. So I've already shared this with one of my colleagues, Marc Contin, in the French team, and I've given him both read and write access. Now, when I'm working in an organization, I actually can see already who in my organization has access to the software, and so I can share it with multiple users very easily. In addition to that, when an organization has multiple teams using the software, you can set them up as different groups in the administrative portal. So these are like little project buckets, so that whenever I send it to Team France, it's automatically sending it to the entire project group of Team France. And then within that, I can customize my message that's going out, because when I share this with those individuals, they'll get an email with a link to that document. And even if I've sent it to someone who doesn't have access to MindView, they'll get an email, but the link will say, click here to create your free account of MindView to open and review this document. Okay. Now, in addition to that ability to have read and write access on the individual document, you can actually then control right down to specific branches what they can and cannot edit. And we do that by calling manage locks. So let's say, for example, in opening remarks, I don't really want anyone else editing what's in here. So I hit add a lock. Now, again, this is my organization, so I see pretty much everyone in my organization, but this person's got write access. I don't want them to have write access, same as Fabian, Christopher. I want write access, and Mark as well. So I'm now adding a lock onto all of those individuals, okay? Click OK, and a padlock appears, basically to say these people have only got read-only aspects for this particular section. Now, if I've added the padlock onto the parent branch, it's now actually locked them out of the whole entire section as well. So again, it comes back to that element of true collaborative working when you're working on maybe multiple projects or a single project, or even just anything for that matter, a large document. I can really control who has access to that mind map and what they can do on there. Okay, nice. So what we looked at today is the ability to now manage users in a completely new way and access the software through a username and password. We saw how to create your account, how to create your username and password, and then how administrators are able to manage users in a bulk of different ways. And within here itself, I go to user management, there's a document here called the User Management Guide, which breaks down all of the different ways that you can manage users. In addition to that, we looked at, through the website, not only the latest upgrade features to MindView, but underneath resources, we looked at all the documents that an IT department could possibly need to help evaluate the software. Now, if you want us to create a test account for any of your organizations, we're happy to do that, the organizations you work with. I just need 2 administrative contacts and their email addresses to set up the account, and we'll happily provide them with access to MindView to evaluate and start getting their accounts set up. All right. Then we jumped into the software. We looked at the new interface of MindView, the new kind of 2019 interface. We reviewed the simple interface, the non-simple interface, and how functionality becomes available when you display that. We looked at the new functionality of MindView, anything from the simple new styles of MindView to the new dictate functionality, as well as that submaps feature as well. We then, within the mind map, use that submaps feature not only in the mind map, but within the Gantt chart, the timeline view. And within the Gantt chart, we looked at some existing functionality that's there, things like the project baselines, exporting to those project reports. But Ryan, as you pointed out, is a really good question. How do I share this with managers or other stakeholders? We looked at the traditional Word export, but this time brought in things like that project information and the PowerPoint export. And as you can all remember, I got a bit overexcited, but what a way of elevating your presentations by, first of all, building it in the mind map, sending it to PowerPoint as a blank, and then using those design ideas. I think the speed at which you're able to produce presentations through mind mapping, compared to if I actually just started with a blank PowerPoint and did all that manually, the strategy of mind mapping first far outstrips the traditional ways of working in Office. So I think that in itself is justification. And then last but not least, what we looked at was saving documents in the cloud with the MindView Drive, and then how to share and collaborate with multiple users. So Louise, yes, if you haven't got access to MindView, we can certainly set you up with an account. Do you work within the DSA context or workplace context? DSA. Okay, so for DSA, I'm going to be sending you the DSA license. So because we don't know who students are when they get our software, we still do need to give license keys out to the resellers to supply that to students. So when you receive your license key from us, because we'll give you the same as a DSA student, so it mirrors what they're getting, it will direct you to go to this web page. It's still the accounts.matchware.com, but /DSA. You enter your license key into this and create a username and password, and it will link the DSA license to your account. If I can ask a favor, just to help me with my own personal task management, if you could drop me an email so I have your contact details, and if you're affiliated with a specific DSA center, let me know, assessment center, drop me an email to liam.pettit@matchware.com. Jason, and for anyone in the team, you guys, I believe we set you up with an account already. So of course you've probably been handing out that access, but one of the things if you haven't tested it out, is start to share documents with each other. See what it's like to collaborate in real time. Love to get your feedback on that. Oh, you are already. I mean, some of the things to look out for, we are already improving in the background, are things like being able to visualize easier who is on the document and where they are on the document. So for example, when you select a branch, it will outline it in a different color with their name on it. And so you can actually see who's on the mind map and what they're doing and who is actually live in there with you. Excellent. Guys, look, I'm going to open it up to you. If there's any questions that you have, anything specific that you want to address, let me know and I can dive into it now. Can I comment on whether MindView Online will get Gantt chart type features? So the roadmap is currently being redrawn for MindView Online. There are two camps. There are those who would like to see, within the business, there are those who would like to see MindView Online almost be a complete replication of the PC edition with all that functionality. And there's a camp that would say, right, well, if you're actually a serious project manager, would you like to work online? You probably want to be on a desktop application. So where that has fallen is, I think we will see some more Gantt chart type functionality coming across. It will be limited at first. As everything with MindView Online, it'll be simplified, which actually be quite nice actually for simple project management. Not everyone needs a kind of really hardcore Gantt chart. So yes is the short answer to that. What you will be seeing So the collaborative functionality of MindView, this MindView Drive, actually always existed with MindView. It was called the shared workspace, and businesses would buy it in addition to the license. We've now just, of course, built it into MindView as a default. In the shared workspace, we had functionality for task management. So what that enabled you to do in a nutshell was to distribute tasks out to individuals, and then within the shared workspace you could manage your tasks. So what we'll probably see in MindView in the not too distant future is, I'm not sure exactly where it's going to live, but there will be a task management panel as a user, whereby you will see all of the mind maps that you are assigned tasks on in a list. You would click on the mind map and then you would see your task list. And you can then update the status of your task, contribute updates, descriptions, attach files, so that the project owner who's distributed all those tasks, they themselves don't need to manually come into it and update the project schedule themselves. It's just happening in real time. Yeah, Amy, that's right. So the license key, when you get it, I think, I'm not sure if we set it to you already, but when you get the license key, you go to that same website I was telling you about, put in the license key. No, you haven't. Right, we'll sort that out. You put in the license key into that box, and then when it says create your account, just use the same username and password that you did for your free trial account, and it will apply that license into the free trial account. No worries. Yeah, I can quickly show MindView Online. So let's go to my account. Click on, oh, if you haven't seen public maps as well, I'd suggest checking that out. Applications, MindView Online. MindView Online as well is currently being not reanimated, but redrawn, just to kind of give it a bit of a facelift. It hasn't had a facelift in a little while. So the beauty, of course, with MindView Online is that you don't have to reinstall any updates as we update it. So all the icons are being redrawn, the whole interface is being redrawn, and it will look a bit more up to date. Plus, also, it's worth pointing out that the interface is optimized for mobile devices, predominantly tablets, those sorts of things. Because I'd say that because obviously a lot of tablet users want to use MindView. You'd still access it through a browser. Does it work on a mobile device like a phone? Yes, it does, but the user experience is not great. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I would also point out that if you work on a laptop which has a touch screen, MindView's this is all meant to work really, really well with touchscreens as well. I haven't got it on here, but because I haven't got a touch screen, but we have pen mode in MindView as well. Pen mode. So you can even write with a pen on the screen like a stylus, and it will convert it to digital text. I can't demonstrate it to you because I don't have a touchscreen with that functionality, but if you happen to have that, check it out. It's pretty good. There we go. There's touch. Anyway, I digress, and I'm wasting your time, guys. So, guys, look, I'm going to let you go. Thank you. I'm sorry it wasn't the traditional let's build mind maps together, but I hope that was still valuable for you. Excellent. Thanks, Andy. Lots of great changes over the years. Awesome. As always, if you need anything specific from me or the team, we are super proactive. We're spending a lot of time with organizations that you guys are working with to help them upgrade to the MindView suite, and we'll really be supportive of that. Good. Excellent. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, guys. Cheers, Melanie. Awesome. Right. Have a fantastic rest of the day, guys, and keep well, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers. Bye. Mustafa, I just drop me an email, and so I've got your contact details, and I'll look into those issues for you. Cheers, guys. Okay, bye.